Yo, yo, yo. What's
Yo,
up, Chris?
happy Friday, dude. How are you, Sash?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, man. Um, I'm pumped, dude. It's Friday, and I was telling you about this a little bit. Like, dude, today is the day that my son plays his first ever console video game.
My God,
Life is about to change, man.
he's gonna be so excited about this. It's
Life
fantastic.
is about to change. So, like,
Wow.
as soon as we leave here, I'm gonna do what we talked about last week. I'm gonna use my turnover skill to wrap this up.
Boom.
And then when I was a kid, my dad picked me up early from school one day because he got to the last level on Super Mario Brothers 1. And when there was
Whoa.
water inside Bowser's castle, he was like, "Yo, I gotta pause." So he paused it, picked me up from school early. So I'm gonna do the same. Circle of life moment for me today, man.
Epic, epic. I'm sure you've been looking forward to it. That's
Yeah,
fantastic,
man,
dude.
it's gonna be fun, dude.
Awesome.
So what about you, man? What's top of mind in your AI world these days, Sash?
Oh man. Well, one of the hottest talk of AI town is Anthropic's 2x limits on the pro account. So
Yeah,
my Anthropanic has gone down a little
Anthropanic.
bit.
That's good. That's good. For those of you who don't
But
subscribe to Sasha's newsletter, one, it's a great read. It's a way that, and this isn't like just a shameless plug. Like I love it, I read it. But you brought up a term, anthropanic, that I think
yeah,
anyone who's ever used Claude and is freaking out about their sessions limit or the weekend limit,
yeah.
yeah, great term.
Man, look at that. Anthropic signed a deal with SpaceX, and which was unusual for me, but hey, whatever.
Agreed. Yeah,
And and now they're doubling the limits on Pro. They've also reduced that the limits were burning faster in business hours. That's not happening anymore. So keep your projects running. Fire up a dozen agents. Do what you please.
we
All
take
right.
those wins, man. So like, so if I have a dozen agents running, like, do you have anything that would help me, like, make sure that they're coordinating well, or like how to call each individual agent? Anything along those lines, by chance?
Well, you know what? It all comes down to you defining what you want to do clearly first. So that's what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about the orchestrator method. It's basically a delegation and a leadership skill. That's how I define it in human terms. And if you're building systems that are reusable for work and you're building AI systems that have agents, like Chris, you just said, hey, how do I make sure all these dozen agents work well
Right.
together and are talking to each other, are producing stuff that I can review? The orchestrator method is all about that. And a lot of that comes from, you build things intuitively. And, but sometimes if you have a framework, you can use that in practice to kind of build that muscle. So, what is the orchestrator method? It's a 5 principle approach of delegating real work to AI. It's very simple. And the reason it is simple is something that we can remember, which is why I'm a big fan of like 3 bullet points or 5 bullet points. So that's sort of how I came up with it. All right. So what's the orchestrator method? So the first principle of it is define the end state. Like you just defined it, Chris, like, okay, you've got a project to do and you can get to that outcome of the project by taking a few steps, or you have to be, before even knowing what system you're going to build for this project, you have to know really what good looks like.
Right.
So it's important to kind of name the deliverable, the format, the quality bar, even before you get started. And I'm sure in your work in building the Grove, you kind of do that too.
Yeah, I mean, like, you answered that why question, right? Like, and I think this, like, anyone who's ever been in like consulting or sales or engineering, right? Like, none of this should be any new, right? It's a technology that's changing, but like, why are we doing this? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here?
The
And I think the
why. Yeah.
same, and so it's pretty cool in that sense that, like, what you're suggesting is like, hey, approach building your AI systems the way that you build anything.
Exactly. So first establish the why and establish it with clarity. Now, sometimes we don't have full clarity on what the end state could look like. You know what? Discuss that with AI.
Yeah.
Use AI to find that clarity and get very clear on the end state, right?
Yep.
And let's give you an example. You can ask AI to write you a newsletter about green energy, or you can ask AI to write you a newsletter that is 800 to 1,000 words about the latest green energy trends in certain geographies and find news items for the past 1 week So these little details are important when you start to define the outcome. And if you don't know, just ask AI. I want to write a newsletter about green energy. What should the end outcome look like? And then
Yeah.
you will get to that clarity. Yeah,
Like this could even, you could even like plug in research here, right? Like as you define this end
exactly.
state, like, you know, what not only what do you want to get to, but like is this even a place worth getting to? Right? Like,
Exactly.
I think the build versus buy thing is just very hot. I think it's hotter right now than it's ever been because of how quickly we're able to innovate on these amazing ideas that we've had over the last 15 years through AI. And it's the like, hey, I have data in this service. Should I
Yep.
try to invest in this service or should I build my own? Right? Like help me figure that
Right.
out. And then that
Exactly.
Claude,
That
whatever model you want to use, Gemini, anything is phenomenal at that. Phenomenal.
It is. So that brings us to the second principle: plan it with AI, right? So use AI to plan your work. Ask it to propose the structure or workflow that is required to get the job done. This is a meta planning step. And the meta planning step is kind of a really quick shortcut. Use AI to design the AI system and write the instructions for the AI system. And if you're not sure of the end state, which is principle one, use principle two: plan with AI to get to the end state.
Hmm.
And that's a big unlock. You don't have to know everything. When Chris and I were talking, dude, we talk about like building this, building that. Can we do it? The answer is always yes.
Always
Because if
yes.
we do,
Assume
we don't know
yes.
how to do it, it's
Yeah.
always yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to sort of build that muscle of planning it with AI.
Yeah.
Um,
I think on that note, right, like if any of you are happen to be using like Claude Code and like if you haven't checked out plan mode yet, open up your
yeah,
terminal, hit shift tab. It's going to put that into plan mode. And for one, it's good because like it can't write anything. Like I even
right.
asked it a couple days ago, hey, can you like document this in an MD for me so I can start in a fresh terminal? It's like, yo, I can't do that in plan mode. So it's a little
Yeah.
safety there, right, from a misclick, but also like the output of that is phenomenal.
It
Phenomenal.
is. It is. And the plan mode's available across like all the building apps
Yeah.
as well. Replit
Co-
Agent, Cursor,
Codex. Yep, I did it in
Codex,
Codex
all
too.
of them
Yep.
have plan modes.
Yep.
Yeah. So use the
Shift
plan
tab.
mode, plan your work with AI. Third principle: deconstruct your work into smaller pieces and then delegate. Every task can be broken down into steps and phases and smaller parts. So break the task into smaller pieces. Decide which task has to run first, what comes next, decide the sequence, what needs to run in parallel. To write a newsletter, you got to do the research first. Where should you go and find that information? So you got to deconstruct the task into smaller pieces so you can delegate those pieces to AI. And again, if you're not sure how to break this task down, ask
Ask
AI.
AI.
Yep. And Chris, I'm sure in the Grove, when you built this complex system with a bunch of agents, you had to go through this process as well.
Yeah, there's always that dilemma, the same way like in any kind of um, engineering based world, right? Of like, do I want a specialist? Do I want a generalist? Where does that
Yeah,
break in,
that's a
right?
good
And
point.
sometimes you can do too much with this, but yeah, I mean, I've got a front end system, I've got a back end system, I have an API layer, I have a messaging layer, I have an automation layer, I've got obviously AI layers, I've got a research component, all of that. So yeah, I mean, like that's a great opportunity. And what I did was do that same thing. Like, hey, give me an agent who's really good at front end development, at back end development.
Right.
I started, I think, at first to structure it as like a people company, like give me a CTO and an architect and all of that. And then that's turned out to be overhead, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not making a middle management joke here. That's not what I'm going to do. But I think it's that same sense of like how do we kind of evolve that thinking
Yeah.
into get them focused on what they're really good at doing. And then like, but I think the big layer is still the orchestrating, right? And I think that's where I fail when
Yeah.
I first started. Just, oh my God, it's easy to create agents. Let me create a bunch of agents. And
Yeah.
then like, but how do you know that two agents um are they gonna try to do the
Work
same
together.
task? Or is one of them gonna
Yeah.
say, hey, like I expect this one to do it, so I'm not gonna do it. And the other one says the same thing, it doesn't get it done. And like who's taking
Yeah.
accountability for that,
Yeah, yeah. So those pieces are important, and use AI to plan that. Let's say if you want to write that green energy newsletter, I'll give you an example here. This is the workflow for my Sunday edition newsletter that Nuro writes. And I use Nuro to break this down into these pieces. And all of these little things happen in one skill. First, it goes to Airtable and collects the news, and then it enriches them with Perplexity. In parallel, it is looking for tools and it is looking for Quiet Signal. So we broke it down into these little components, decided the sequence of what runs first, what runs next, what has to run in parallel, and then you run it a few times so it can become like you can refine it. So that's another idea of decomposing a task into smaller pieces so you can delegate it with confidence. So that's principle three. And also, you do that when you work with teams.
Anything.
You've got a big goal
Yeah.
to accomplish. You break it down into smaller pieces. You have specialists that run each small piece, and then you've got generalists that were sort of helping. It's the same concept. This
Same
is a
thing.
delegation skill.
Same thing.
Yep. And so once you've deconstructed it, delegated it, and then number four, which is important, you have to stay in the loop. What that means is you have to review the AI's output every step. You have to set checkpoints to catch errors and refine sort of instructions for those steps before these errors compound. That's the most important piece. This is how you preserve
Yep.
your capability. This is how you preserve human judgment. You are always in the pilot seat, so you have to stay in the loop. And to give you an example here, after these three steps are completed, Nuro actually drafts and then asks me for approval. I get a Slack message. There's an MD file which has all these things. I can respond saying, change this, change that. And then it does a rewrite. And once I'm approved, only then it's going to go into the next step, which is what it's going to generate the cover image. So having these checkpoints is super important. What do you think, Chris?
No, and I without question, right? Like if you listened last week, I talked about, a big moment for me with AI was when I realized that like I can't expect my AI systems to be perfect, and like
Yeah.
I'm like they're just like us, right? We give them a bunch of stuff to do, they get overwhelmed, they forget things, you know, and so it's the accountability there. But like what that has shifted for me is like to introduce trust layers. Like I want to stay in the loop
Yeah.
until I can trust it more. So
Yes.
I have started like for example like when I have it generate emails for me, there's not a single email that I sent out that AI sends out for me
Yeah.
today, right?
Same.
It sends
Yep.
them all. They're all in my drafts. But I've started kind of like a feedback loop on that, right? And trying to
Yep.
start tracking how often am I actually making changes to this? Because I
Yes.
don't want to send emails forever. I don't want to do anything forever. And if like for right now, the number in my head is 95%. That's just a made up
Yeah.
number, right? But like if I feel like I'm at 95% of the time not doing anything, why am I in the loop?
Exactly. Exactly. So staying in loop is very important, and think about it in every kind of sense of reviewing AI's output and evaluating it, right? And
Yep.
that's applicable to everything. It's applicable to a simple thing like writing an email, or if you're running a multi-agent system where you have introduced checkpoints of, where how these agents are
Period.
doing their work.
Period.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this also allows you to run steps 2 through 4 in a loop. So if you can find a mistake, you can give it instructions
Hmm.
to refine it. And then, if you need to deconstruct something further, or you need to take away some of the delegation, or you need to add more delegation checkpoints, you can run these three in a loop and keep planning it with AI till you get to the outcome that you're satisfied with. So the way I kind of designed the Sunday edition was I didn't know how to break it down. I just said, this is what I need. And then we brainstormed it and started running one of the, like writing
Hmm.
a newsletter, and then went through understanding where is it grabbing the information from? Where should we go to find the sources? And then eventually, after a few runs, it became clear on what the workflow should look like. And that's where I was in the loop all the time. Now, once you've got the desired output you want, step five, build systems for reuse, right? This is the real unlock, right? A small brief should become a skill. A workflow should become an agent, and it should be refined every run so you can rerun it. Now you have run it a few times, you've built confidence, you've got into that 95% accuracy that Chris said. And that number can be different for everybody. Don't expect 100 ever, but 95% is good. And then you figure out how to build that into a system so it can run itself. And Chris, you run a
Oh
lot of
my
automated
gosh,
stuff.
man.
I know.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
this
yeah,
this is music to my ears, man. Like and I feel like I have had such a I was talking to my girlfriend about this yesterday. I have had such a massive shift in like how I'm
yeah,
thinking around number five. It's like so I'll give you an example. So I've been playing around with Hermes Agent, which is kind of a competitor to OpenClaw, and I want to talk more about that next week. It's great because it's supposed to learn from you. One thing I really like about Hermes Agent is that the third time you do something, it automatically creates a skill for you. It applies number
Yeah.
5. But I was thinking of it as like I created my first like agent, like a sub agent for me and Hermes, and it was um I'm going through a divorce, finalizing a divorce. My girlfriend's finalizing a divorce to get personal for a second, and we're trying to use AI to help with that. So I'm like, hey, let me spin up an Atticus Finch divorce expert for the state of Georgia agent. And so I figured out how to
Uh-huh.
do that in Hermes, a little bit different in Claude. And as soon as I got done, I was like, yo, create an ad agent skill. Like, just go ahead and create
Yeah.
everything you just did. Just go ahead and define that as a skill because I know there's going to be another time that I want to do that. Right. And so,
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to think in every way that way. And like, we talked about last week how, for me, I build sub skills and then I have skills
Yeah.
that call these sub skills. And then I think where you're
Yeah.
going with here is like, after you have skills, you want to run them on a schedule. Now you've got
Yeah.
workflows, now you've got automations, and then you can spin that into agents, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you can have a combination of all of that. You can have a bunch of agents that are using skills that are calling other skills. That kind of combination is useful when it's reusable. And all of these combinations are. Like, I just started, my wife and I, we run a laundry business in Brooklyn, and we just started doing Google Ads. I had no idea how complicated it is to run a Google ad for a small business. Like, there's a lot of setup needed. I just hooked it up with the API, man. And I asked
Yeah.
Claude to teach me that.
Yeah.
And we learned it, set it up, and then I built it a skill. Next time I want to run another campaign, just remember all of these steps we
Right.
just spent 3 hours
Right.
doing. And
Right.
then now it's a crazy bubbles ad skill, which next time when I run a campaign, I'll use. That's the idea. So
Fantastic.
just to recap, first, start by defining the end state, what the why of the piece, why you're doing it, and what does it look like. And if you're unsure, if you're not clear, go to step 2, plan that with AI. Plan your work with AI, define the end state with AI, and then use AI to plan the entire workflow. Then once you've got the workflow, sort of an idea of what it would look like, deconstruct it, break it down into small pieces, and then you can delegate pieces to AI. And while you're delegating these pieces to AI, step 4, always stay in the loop. Build checkpoints where AI asks you for your review. You review the output, you refine. You review the output, you refine. You review the output, you refine. In a few iterations, when you're happy with the output you're getting, and you run the workflow a few times, go to step 5. Make that workflow repeatable. Build systems for reuse, build skills, build multi-step skills, build agents, and anything that can run your workflow with full confidence so you can delegate more work to it. That's where the actual unlock is. So that is the orchestrator method.
Yeah, no, this is awesome, Sash. Thanks for running through that, man. And I think a big light bulb moment that I just had was you can take the same orchestrator method and do it to a micro level, right? Like you could
Yeah.
use this method in terms of how you are building one skill
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This is applicable to all levels.
to,
You can
to
use
everything.
put this to use for just what a prompt. If you want a
Right.
system prompt, just simple system prompt for a project in ChatGPT, you can use this method. You can use it for a skill, you can use it for an agent, and you can use it for multi-agentic workflows. Any complexity,
Love it, man.
it can just be applied.
Love it.
All right, dude.
This is awesome, dude.
Tell us
Appreciate it, man.
tell us what you're going to talk about next week, really quickly.
Next week, man, I've been trying to play around with bringing AI into my personal life, not just from like a building state, but from an interactability state. So I'm going to go in, like I mentioned a second ago, and talk about Hermes Agent, which is
Mhm.
it's just like OpenClaw. It's designed to be something that's it's always on. I kind of call where like Claude Code and Codex. I kind of have that as my brain. Think of this as like my
Mhm.
body. This is the one that always moves. When my brain shuts off, there's still movement happening, but not just for me. I've got one set up for my girlfriend. I've got one set up for like the whole family. And
All
then I want
right.
to talk about how like I just woke up a couple days ago and found that our agents were just having a conversation without us. So pretty
I would
crazy,
love to
man.
hear about that.
Yeah,
Been
man.
wanting to learn about Hermes, man. Looking forward to next week.
It's fun. Always a pleasure, Sash. Love these, man.
Likewise.
Have a good weekend to
Likewise,
you.
brother.
Thanks everyone for
You too.
joining us. Have a good one, y'all.
All right.
Cheers.